What the are you saying? It's the most bizarre headline.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out of touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom.
What did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go.
That's the moment the fire lit. On national TV, Sunny Hostin branded millions of women as uneducated, a swipe that felt less like commentary and more like contempt. And here, Charlie Kirk wasn't laughing. He shot back with lawyers on speed dial and a warning that smearing thousands of students wouldn't be ignored. What started as a daytime jab was already turning into a high-stakes fight. And waiting in the wings? Joe Rogan. A voice built on blunt humor and sharp timing. All clips and statements shown are drawn from public sources and news coverage. Together, he and Kirk were about to turn Sunny's words into the spark for a cultural showdown that no one on The View saw coming.
They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to.
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
It was more than a rebuttal. It felt like an indictment of the entire system. Charlie didn't name Sunny directly. He didn't need to. By pointing to the students, he flipped the frame. This wasn't just about political sparring on TV. It was about young people dragged into a media storm they never signed up for. But not only Sunny, the other hosts added their own lines, almost as if they were daring someone to strike back. That's what makes this case so explosive. Hit subscribe and watch how deep this story goes.
On Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly Nazi demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here.
On Monday, The View read their clarification live. The words stumbling out like lines in a soap opera where the actors realize the script has gone too far. But Charlie Kirk didn't take the bait. With a steady voice, he turned the camera away from himself and back to the young faces in the crowd. Do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. It was a twist no one in the control room wanted. The lawsuit wasn't about Charlie's pride. It was about credibility. Could a daytime show casually link students to extremists and then brush it off with a line or two? And somewhere, Rogan's smirk felt inevitable, like a comic watching a drama unravel in real time.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do. And no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK. They'll see Elon Musk.
The lights dimmed a little when Rogan weighed in, not with numbers, not with spreadsheets, but with the kind of humor that cuts deeper than statistics ever could. But beneath the laughter was a warning. Rogan pointed out a shift, the kind of ideological flip where censorship, war, and mandates, once tied to the authoritarian right, were now being championed on the left. His point wasn't wrapped in policy papers. It was a cultural mirror, showing how groupthink can creep in under any banner.
Yeah, I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days.
Yeah, is that annoying? It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
Joe Rogan didn't storm in with outrage. He laughed. Sitting back in his chair, he called The View the show people love to hate, a place where viral clips thrive on saying the most ridiculous things. To Rogan, it wasn't a debate stage, it was theater, a production that fed on outrage the way sitcoms feed on canned laughter.
She's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. I don't think Sonny's dumb, but Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and just fucking, it's nothing
Just
there.
go. And in that instant, the contrast was brutal. While Charlie Kirk played the surgeon with cold data, Rogan swung the hammer of satire. Together, they weren't just exposing Sunny Hostin. They were exposing the entire ecosystem that props up sound bites as truth.
I know you saw this clip. Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated, not non-college educated, the uneducated, which is what you are in Sunny Hostin's view, including you, Charlie Kirk, because she's conflating, right, people who didn't go to college with people.
And I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more. And good for them.
First came the legal tone. Charlie Kirk leaned into the camera, his words sharp but steady. This wasn't about him. It was about the students who had been painted with the broadest, ugliest brush. His challenge to The View wasn't emotional, it was structural. A demand for accountability that made the apology sound less like closure and more like Exhibit A. Then, almost in the same breath, Joe Rogan flipped the frame.
You know, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
You know, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured. It's a dumb way of addressing a thing, and to immediately say that someone's been co-opted with no evidence whatsoever. There's nothing about anything that you say that seems right-wing. You know, you're just objectively looking at these subjects and giving a very intelligent...
And with that, he turned the spotlight away from individuals and onto the environment itself, a stage where ideology trumped nuance, and where even smart voices risked being swallowed by the script. The effect was like a double exposure photograph. 2 images layered over each other until the flaws became impossible to miss. Together, the contrast hit harder than either could alone. Charlie's scalpel exposed the cracks in the argument, while Rogan's hammer smashed the stage those arguments stood on. And for viewers at home, it felt less like commentary and more like a demolition.
Turning Point Conference, they're not were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs and the Nazi swastika.
I think it's important that every single person that attended that turning point, every Republican speak up against the swastikas, against the Nazi flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth.
let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about at the Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
Joy and Whoopi are both collectively such a liability. And, they must have to run just incredible interference legally. They must have a team of lawyers on set drafting things for them to read during every commercial, because what they say is so asinine and so out of touch. It's a miracle they're both gainfully employed.
And yet the excuses are, I was being metaphorical.
Right.
I mean, I don't think an attorney wrote that. Exactly. Not what the word means.
What happened next didn't take place on a stage, but on screens across the country. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all lit up with memes and parody edits. Charlie's "Students Deserve Better" clip was clipped again and again, this time by teachers. Rogan's jokes became hashtags. Sunny Hostin's response, "Nowhere to be found." And that silence? That became its own punchline. But is silence strategy or surrender? Keep watching.
I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double X.
By the next day, reaction clips had flooded every platform. Rogan called The View a rabies-infested henhouse, while Tim Dillon went further, suggesting the show looked engineered to humiliate rather than inform. It was raw, comedic, but also unsettling, the kind of line that audiences replay because it feels both absurd and uncomfortably true. Charlie Kirk's soundbite, "Do our students accept it?" started showing up in unexpected places, even in debate clubs and lecture halls. For some, it became a teaching moment. For others, a rallying cry.
The real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house.
South African president paid a visit to the White House yesterday, which turned into a surprise presentation on conspiracy theories of a white genocide in his country.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her.
So between ambushing Zelensky and this, why would world leaders continue to come to the White House?
Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. If you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, a lot of them are paid because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire.
This is the problem with getting all your information from Laura Loomer and Elon Musk. This is what they're going to deal you.
It's a very strange show.
And through it all, Sunny Hostin stayed silent. No counterattack. No clarification, just absence. But sometimes, absence makes the loudest noise. On social media, viewers began asking if her silence was a pause for reflection, or an admission that the internet had already run away with the story.
Sunny Hostin, I think, went to Notre Dame. Her son's at Harvard. Her daughter's at Cornell. She's married to the Ivy League, and that's why she looks down on everyone else as a bunch of stupid losers who didn't vote the right way because they're not as smart as she is. I spent many years across from Sunny Hostin on the set of Bill O'Reilly. She is not as smart as she thinks she is. In fact, I defy you to show me one debate we ever had that she won. There isn't one. So I'm not done with the Charlie Kirk homage.
Oh boy.
We put together a little bit of you on your college tour just so the audience can see some of the hard work.
By the time Megyn Kelly weighed in, the picture grew sharper. She pointed to Sunny's Ivy League ties, her children in elite universities, her marriage into that world, and suggested that this distance explained the contempt on display. The critique wasn't about grades or resumes, it was about the widening gap between a polished studio bubble and the everyday lives it claims to represent.
Tell you what a democracy looks like. Every person will vote on every single issue in a democracy. A lot of ballot referendums, a lot of things of that nature. Go ask Grok, did the word democracy appear in the Constitution?
That doesn't matter if democracy is specifically
okay, so then let me ask you, what is democracy? Define it.
Democracy is a system or government that's ran by elected leaders.
That's not the definition of democracy.
It's literally right here. The online definition is a system of government by the whole population.
The whole population, exactly.
Right.
I am right. That's not what we have. We delegate our authority to elected leaders.
And they still have to have a majority.
No, they don't. In a Republican style of government, things are slower, they are arduous, and you have natural rights that are enshrined that the majority of the people cannot overturn.
At the same moment, Charlie Kirk was on stage reminding audiences what democracy actually means. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't even personal, it was structural, an appeal to principles rather than applause. The contrast was striking. While TV hosts traded quips, Kirk leaned on definitions, Megyn on context, Rogan on comedy. And suddenly, the story shifted. This wasn't just about Sunny Hostin anymore. It was about how easily talk shows could turn moral posturing into accepted truth, and how quickly that illusion can crack when confronted with facts and laughter side by side.
I know you saw this clip. Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out of touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated, not non-college educated, the uneducated, which is what you are in Sunny Hostin's view, including you, Charlie Kirk, because she's conflating, right, people who didn't go to college with people who...
Is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement?
By the end, the picture was hard to ignore. Megyn Kelly replayed Sunny's words, calling them elitist and out of touch, the kind of line that doesn't just spark debate, but burns bridges with the very audience a show claims to represent. And that's why this lawsuit was almost inevitable. When commentary crosses the line into contempt, when young people are smeared not for what they did, but for who they are, the pushback isn't just expected, it's necessary. In that sense, the legal battle isn't just about damages, it's about drawing a line in public, where even a daytime talk show has to answer for the weight of its words.
I mean, it's a bizarre show.
So we had 8 minutes, and America's approach to race, pretty big topic, pretty important topic.
I think the way before you start, I think the way you described it is brilliant, and the way we should all look at it. Of course, you're going to see race.
Yes.
The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous. But treat everybody. They're just human beings.
Yeah.
Everybody's just individuals.
That's right.
That's what we should all hope for. And then there's some people who are good intentioned, but have a very narrow perspective and a very limited amount of information that they're operating under, that will try to pretend that these things are overall good, are net positive.
Right. And Sunny Hostin may be one of those people.
Together with Rogan's humor, the effect became what some online called the perfect storm. Logic cut with a scalpel, satire swung like a hammer, and context peeled away the layers of media gloss. The takeaway wasn't that Sunny was canceled. It was that the machinery of television punditry had been stripped bare. And once the curtains pulled back, it's hard for viewers to ever see it the same way again. So what began with a single remark on The View, Sunny Hostin dismissing millions as uneducated, quickly spiraled into something bigger. Charlie Kirk countered with data and the threat of legal action, defending the students who felt smeared. Joe Rogan piled on with satire, mocking the show's groupthink and exposing the culture behind it. What followed was a chain reaction. Memes, viral clips, even classroom debates. But beneath the noise lay a deeper question. This wasn't simply about one host or one network. It was about the fragile line between commentary and contempt, between entertainment and credibility. This video features commentary based on publicly aired segments from Joe Rogan, Charlie Kirk, and verified media coverage involving Sunny Hostin and related news events. All references are drawn from public sources. No private or speculative information is included. The content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and fair use policy, intended for commentary, critique, and analysis. And if this gave you a new angle or sparked a thought, don't forget to hit subscribe. The next big reveal could be just around the corner. Thanks for watching.